salvage operation gone wrong. The decrepit mining station Rusthaven floated like a forgotten memory at the edge of the Cygnus expanse. Inside its dimly lit trade hub, Riker Novak nursed a synthetic whiskey, watching the holographic display of available salvage contracts. 20 years of pulling treasures from space junk had left him with a cybernetic right arm, a worn-out ship called the Lucky Break, and enough credits to keep floating, but never enough to escape this life. Another, he muttered, sliding his empty glass across the counter. The bartender, an android with mismatched optical sensors, refilled without comment. A notification pinged on his wrist terminal. Riker squinted at the readout. An unregistered derelict had appeared in the Helios sector, just beyond corporate jurisdiction. No salvage claim filed. No rescue beacon. Just a ghost ship waiting to be picked clean. Closing time's not for another hour, the android said when Riker stood abruptly. Found something better to do, Riker replied, already heading for the airlock. The Lucky Break wasn't much. A retrofitted cargo hauler with barely functioning life support and an engine that sounded like it was perpetually dying. But it was his, free and clear. Computer, plot course for the Helios sector, grid coordinates 447-89-3, Riker called out as he settled into the pilot's chair. Calculating, replied the ship's AI, a bargain bin model with half its personality matrix corrupted. Warning. Helios sector experiences solar flare activity. Recommend delay until. Override. Full thrust once we clear the station. Riker didn't have time to wait. In the salvage business, you were either first or you were nothing. The engines groaned as the Lucky Break pulled away from Rusthaven, accelerating toward what might be his biggest score in years. The derelict appeared on long-range scanners 6 hours later. It was massive, at least 3 times the size of the Lucky Break. The hull configuration wasn't immediately recognizable, it had sleek lines unlike the utilitarian vessels common in this sector. No known registry match, the computer announced. Hull composition contains unknown alloys. Unknown means valuable, Riker murmured, a smile creeping across his weathered face. He guided the Lucky Break alongside the silent vessel, marveling at its elegant design. Despite obvious damage to the port thrusters and what looked like weapon burns across the hull, it remained largely intact. Finding a compatible airlock took time. The derelict's systems were completely dead, forcing Riker to use the mechanical override on his utility belt. The airlock cycled with a reluctant hiss, revealing a darkened corridor beyond. Atmosphere present but thin, reported his suit sensors. Temperature 17 degrees below standard. Riker activated his helmet lights and stepped inside, the magnetic clamps in his boots securing him to the metal deck. The interior architecture was as strange as the exterior, flowing curves instead of practical angles, with wall panels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Definitely not human design, he muttered, recording everything through his helmet cam. The footage alone might be worth something to the right buyer. Moving deeper into the ship, Riker felt an unsettling sensation, like being watched. The salvager in him catalogued potential valuables, exotic metals, unknown tech, maybe even intact data cores. But the survivor in him noticed other things, scorch marks on interior walls, signs of struggle, and what looked disturbingly like claw marks gouged into metal. The ship's layout defied conventional design logic. Corridors led to chambers with no apparent purpose. What might have been the bridge contained no recognizable control interfaces. In what appeared to be a cargo hold, Riker discovered the first signs of the crew's fate. A humanoid exosuit lay crumpled against a wall, its occupant long gone. The material was unlike any he'd encountered, a shimmering fabric that seemed to change color with the angle of his light. "Computer, analyze and identify," he said, transmitting visual data back to the Lucky Break. Unknown origin. Possibility of military application. Caution advised. Riker frowned. Military salvage carried steep penalties, unless you sold to the right people. A faint sound echoed from deeper within the ship, a sound that didn't belong on a dead vessel. Something between a hum and a pulse, rhythmic and alive. Against better judgment, Riker followed it. The source led him to a sealed chamber at the ship's core. Unlike the other doors, this one showed signs of being deliberately reinforced, and recently forced open. Riker approached cautiously, cybernetic arm raised with its built-in plasma cutter ready. What waited inside stole his breath. Illuminated by a soft, pulsing blue light was a creature straight from ancient mythology. It resembled a dragon in the most fundamental sense, scaled body, powerful limbs, elongated neck, but clearly alien in origin. Its scales shifted colors like oil on water, predominantly midnight blue with streaks of silver. Where it lay curled around what appeared to be smaller versions of itself, Riker could see thick restraints had been broken. Not a derelict ship. A prison transport. The creature's eyes snapped open, vertical pupils contracting in iris rings of molten copper. It raised its head, jaws parting to reveal teeth that could shred through his suit with minimal effort. Riker remained perfectly still, mind racing through options. His ship couldn't outrun whatever this was if it decided to pursue. The plasma cutter wouldn't make a dent in those scales. The dragon thing let out a low, rumbling sound, not quite a growl, more like speech without words. The smaller creatures, 3 of them, Riker now counted, stirred beneath its protective wing. "Easy," Riker whispered, slowly lowering his arm. "Not here to hurt anyone." The creature tilted its head, studying him with unsettling intelligence. Then, to Riker's shock, it projected a thought directly into his mind, a sensation of images and concepts rather than words. "Danger still follows. Help young survive." Riker staggered back as the alien presence withdrew from his thoughts. The dragon extended its neck, bringing its face close to his helmet. One of the smaller dragons chirped weakly. "They're sick," Riker realized aloud. "Or hurt." The mother dragon, he was certain now it was female, confirmed with another pulse of thought. "Starving. Poisoned. Hunted." Riker's wrist terminal flashed with an alert from his ship's sensors. Another vessel had entered the sector and was rapidly approaching. Military grade. Heavily armed. "They're coming back for you," he said, the pieces falling into place. "Someone wants you bad enough to risk coming after you." The dragon's eyes narrowed, and Riker felt a wave of determination mixed with desperation. He had a choice to make. The smart play was simple: return to his ship and vanish before the newcomers arrived. Whatever conflict existed between these creatures and their pursuers wasn't his problem. The salvage potential was lost, but better that than getting caught in the middle of something deadly. That was the smart play. Instead, Riker found himself saying, "My ship's not much, but it's better than waiting here for them." "Can you move? Can the little ones travel?" The dragon rose to her full height, nearly brushing the chamber ceiling, and gently nudged her offspring to their feet. They wobbled unsteadily but stood. Riker nodded and gestured toward the corridor. "Then we better hurry." As he led them through the labyrinthine passages toward his docking point, Riker couldn't shake the feeling that he'd just made either the worst mistake of his life, or the first truly meaningful choice in decades. Riker's hands flew across the Lucky Break's control panel, emergency launch protocols overriding safety measures as the approaching military vessel loomed larger on the scanner. The docking clamps released with a metallic groan that reverberated through the hull. "Computer, divert all non-essential power to engines and shields," he commanded, glancing nervously at the cargo hold where his unusual passengers were settling in. "Warning, unidentified life forms detected in cargo bay," the AI reported flatly. "Override safety protocol. They're authorized passengers. Acknowledged. Life support extended to cargo bay. Power diversion complete." The Lucky Break lurched forward, breaking away from the derelict ship just as a transmission crackled through the comm system. "Unregistered vessel, this is Stellar Command Cruiser Relentless. You are interfering with a military reclamation operation. Power down and prepare for boarding." Riker killed the transmission and pushed the engines beyond their recommended output. The lucky brake shuddered in protest, acceleration pressing him into his seat as they shot away from the derelict and the approaching warship. "Computer, calculate fastest route to the Kessler asteroid field," Riker ordered, knowing the dense debris would provide cover for a smaller vessel. Course plotted. Warning, pursuing vessel has launched intercept drones. 3 blips appeared on the tactical display, moving faster than the cruiser and closing rapidly. Riker cursed under his breath and executed a series of evasive maneuvers. The lucky brake wasn't built for combat, but years of navigating treacherous salvage zones had taught him tricks that military pilots rarely learned. A warning alarm blared as one of the drones locked weapons. Riker waited until the last possible moment before cutting thrust and rotating the ship, allowing the drone to overshoot. When it adjusted its course, he triggered the magnetized salvage net, normally used for collecting space debris. The drone became entangled, its propulsion system shorting out against the electrified mesh. "One down," he muttered, sweat beading on his forehead as he focused on the remaining threats. A strange sensation brushed against his consciousness. The Dragon was communicating again, projecting urgency and direction. Without fully understanding why, Riker banked hard to starboard just as energy beams sliced through the space his ship had occupied seconds before. Gratitude. More danger coming. The Dragon's thoughts carried images of the cruiser launching additional pursuit craft. Somehow, she was sensing them before they appeared on his scanners. "Computer, how long until we reach the asteroid field?" 7 minutes at current velocity." "We might not have 7 minutes, Riker muttered, then made a decision. "Reroute power from life support to engines. Keep minimum oxygen levels only." The lucky brake surged forward, the remaining drones falling behind as they entered the fringes of the Kessler field. Massive chunks of rock and metal tumbled through space in chaotic patterns, perfect for losing pursuers but treacherous to navigate. Riker guided the ship deeper into the field, weaving between asteroids with practiced precision. The Dragon's thoughts occasionally offered warnings, danger left or safe path there, which proved eerily accurate. The remaining drones crashed into obstacles trying to follow their erratic path. Once certain they weren't being followed, Riker directed the ship toward a hollow asteroid he'd used as a hideout during previous jobs. The lucky brake slipped inside the massive rock, settling into a natural cavity large enough to conceal them. "Power conservation mode," Riker ordered as the engines powered down. The only sounds were the settling of the hull and his own labored breathing in the oxygen-thin atmosphere. Time to check on his passengers. The cargo bay door slid open to reveal the mother Dragon curled protectively around her 3 offspring. In the ship's lighting, their scales glimmered with iridescent beauty, shifting between midnight blue and emerald green with flecks of gold. The young ones were roughly the size of Earth wolves, while their mother could easily fill most of the cargo space if fully extended. "We should be safe here for now," Riker said, not sure if vocalization was necessary for communication but feeling strange talking only in his head. The mother Dragon raised her head, copper eyes studying him intently. Another thought impression formed in his mind. Gratitude. "You risked life. Why?" Riker leaned against the doorframe, considering the question. Why had he risked everything for creatures he'd just met? Creatures that weren't even human. "I've spent 20 years picking through other people's discards," he finally answered. "Stripping ships where people died or abandoned everything. Started to feel like I was just another scavenger, no better than the void rats that feed on space debris." He gestured toward the young dragons, who watched him with curious eyes. "Didn't seem right, leaving you all to whatever they had planned." The dragon's thoughts conveyed understanding, then concern. One of the younger dragons, scales more silvery than its siblings, attempted to stand but wobbled weakly. "They're not doing well," Riker noted, approaching cautiously and kneeling beside the weakest offspring. "Computer, analyze life signs." The AI's scanner hummed as it assessed the creatures. "Unknown species. Detecting severe dehydration, malnutrition, and traces of chemical suppressants in bloodstream. Riker nodded grimly. They were keeping you sedated. To control. To study. To weaponize. The thought carried such bitterness that Riker physically flinched. Who are they? The military? Worse. Black operation. No oversight. Called Chimera Division. The name meant nothing to Riker, but the concept was clear enough. Throughout human expansion into space, rumors persisted of secret programs developing biological weapons or attempting to harness alien life forms for military purposes. What do they want with you? The mother dragon's thoughts became more complex, harder to interpret. Images of energy flowing between stars, of her kind traveling through space without ships, of incredible destructive power directed at threats. We protect our worlds. They want our power. Riker processed this information while checking his supplies. I have protein rations and water. Not sure if it's compatible with your biology, but it's all I've got. He prepared a mixture of water and dissolved protein powder, offering it in a shallow container. The mother dragon sniffed it cautiously, then nudged her weakest offspring forward. The young dragon lapped at the liquid tentatively before drinking with increasing eagerness. Good sign, Riker murmured, preparing more for the others. As he worked, the mother dragon's thoughts touched his mind again. Your name? Riker. Riker Novak. I am Seraphina. Children are Lumina, Orion, Vesper. The names weren't sounds but complex thought patterns that somehow translated into these approximations in his mind. Nice to meet you, though I wish it were under better circumstances, Riker said with a wry smile. We'll need to move soon. This hiding spot won't fool them for long if they're determined. Where can we go? That was the question that had been troubling him since their escape. Every port and station in this sector would report unusual life forms to authorities. The Stellar Command cruiser would have alerted all checkpoints by now. I know someone, Riker decided, the plan forming as he spoke. An old contact in the Nebula Belt. If anyone can help us stay off the grid while we figure this out, it's him. Seraphina's eyes studied him, seeming to look through to his very core. Another thought form touched his mind, this one carrying gratitude mixed with something else, trust, tentative but growing. We bond to you, Riker Novak. Life debt formed. As the young dragons finished their meal and curled up to rest, visibly stronger already, Riker wondered exactly what he'd gotten himself into, and why, despite the danger, it felt like the most right thing he'd done in decades.